This video is brought to you by Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co. Never in my almost 3 years of battle videos has one been so difficult to research, with a character so drastically ranked in power across his community. This video took almost a month to write, research, and edit, so I really appreciate it if you watch it all the way through. Thank you. Denji, a public safety devil hunter. Denji, despite at first just being a mere human, went through a series of events that have turned him into one of the most powerful beings in his universe, if not the most. Now, before this video even begins, I want to say up front, there will be spoilers for the manga, though I will try to keep it as simple as possible with as little context as possible, so you've been warned. I also should make it known, I just recently started watching the show, literally starting a few weeks back just for this video, and also wanted to go see it in theaters, but ended up going to the wrong theater, so I had to buy tickets for this other theater, but all they had is 3D, so alright, you get it. So, let it be known, I have yet to read all the manga myself, so if I miss some context on a feat or something small, please forgive me and correct me in the comments. Though, on that note, I do plan to read the entire manga soon, so I can make more videos on this series in the future, because I really do enjoy this show. I'd like to quickly thank Crafty for all the help. He loves the series to death, and was so much help with researching this. Anyways, back on beat, Denji, while still a young kid, only 16, is ridiculously powerful. And this is all thanks to Pochita fusing to his body to revive Denji from the dead. And with Pochita living within, Denji can now turn into the Chainsaw Man, a human-devil hybrid with, take a guess, chainsaws. In this video though, we'll put him up against new Titanic level threats, beasts that he can't just saw his way through. We'll look at Denji, Chainsaw Man and Pochita's feats, and then as Makima did, bang Denji all the way into a new verse. That came out wrong. Today we ask an interesting question, taking the King of Hell and pinning him into the Monsterverse. Will he chop his way through the ranking, or is Denji bit off more than he can chew? Hello everyone, I'm your host Goji Guy, and today we ask, can Chainsaw Man survive the Monsterverse? So, first things first, e-bagging. Hello everyone, and I hope you all are doing well. To my returning viewers, welcome back. And thank you for your constant support. And to any new viewers watching, hello, I'm Goji Guy. And despite being, well, a kaiju, I post much more than just that, and soon plan to really shift towards anime content, abruptly forcing my way into the anime content creator community. So if you want to see more anime videos in the future, along with kaijus, dragons, dinosaurs, sci-fi, and so much more, or if you just end up liking this video, then make sure to subscribe. Anyways, with that being said, we need to cover a few things. Firstly, and most importantly, Denji's feats. We will take stuff from Denji, Chainsaw Man, and Pochita, but we are mostly just pulling from Pochita's higher feats. Once we have all of his feats down, we will reveal the bracket he'll have to climb, and then cover each kaiju's feats when going over them. Also, it should be known now, I personally have Chainsaw Man a lot higher than most people do. So if you're thinking he's in these city level ranges, then bump it up quite a bit. And lastly, I'll say it now, he kinda clears already, but let me explain. Now, we will still cover the battles, but unlike certain characters like Springtrap that happen to come back from a series of events, so we usually just don't allow him to come back in battles as it's not realistic, Chainsaw Man is essentially unkillable, unless you erase all knowledge and proof that chainsaws ever existed. So for a kaiju to truly kill him, they would need to surface wipe Earth, destroy the ISS, and any and all radio waves we've ever sent out into space that mention chainsaws or anything adjacent. So you see why he's essentially unkillable. So he will more stop once he can't beat a kaiju, though with that being said, he does clear a large amount. So with all that knowledge, let's begin, shall we? With the yap out of the way, let's start with Denji's feats. So, Denji, good lord, where do I begin? Unlike most battle channels that have everything organized and going in quick order, I, on the other hand, have a messy Google Doc with general mid to high-end stuff. So, I'm just gonna read over it. Sound good? No? Well, too bad. Starting with strength. Firstly, starting at the beginning of the series, Denji, having just become the Chainsaw Man, is able to endure being blasted through buildings with no issue, as seen with the Bat Devil blasting them to the ground, and later enduring his Sonic Blast, which also, might I add, caused no damage to his hearing, which is useful for certain kaiju that may appear on this list, but moving on. In the Rize arc, he's able to kill the Typhoon Devil, which, well, yeah, it wasn't a one-shot or anything, this is still an insanely powerful devil that was ripping through a city with ease. Later, when he's Pochita, he's able to essentially one-shot Makima along with her horsemen, the flamethrower, whip, and spear hybrids. For some more mid-range stuff, it's the fact that the Gun Devil, given his sheer size, will be outputting enough force to destroy entire mountains to possibly islands, just based on how massive he is. And besides the fact that of course Pochita is above him, when in hell, it is said there are many other devils far stronger than the Gun Devil. And again, Pochita is still stronger than those devils. So at a low to mid-end, he's able to damage characters that just from moving could destroy entire mountains to possibly islands. But onto the big feats. Now first I have to mention the fact that Chainsaw Man is able to erase devils along with their concepts, such as he did with the Mouth Devil. And for a little bit in the manga, there was a time where nobody had mouths. So why is this important? Well, it all comes down to the fact that Chainsaw Man was able to erase the Nuke Devil. Now, I'm not gonna say that the Nuke Devil is able to dish out an attack that has the AP or explosive yield of all the nukes at once, but the fact stands that Chainsaw Man was able to erase a devil that is likely on par, if not above ones like the Gun Devil. And during the events of the show, at the time, there were roughly 60,000 nukes globally. So Chainsaw Man was able to get rid of all of them like it was nothing. So it's iffy to say, really. It comes down to interpretation. But I would say, given the Nuke Devil status, you could argue this into the country levels of power. I would would say, given the Nuke Devil status, Denji was likely enduring high Megaton yield attacks with ease. So scaling-wise, this would get him anywhere from island to country. So while it's odd, we will actually be going with the higher end stuff, and let me explain why. Now, to those who haven't read the manga, I can't be talking, there are normal devils, such as the Bat, Typhoon, and Gun Devils, of course. But the strongest devils are the Primal Devils, essentially humanity's built-in fears. And due to that, they are the strongest, these including devils like the Aging Devil, Falling Devil, Death Devil, and Darkness Devil. And because plot is plot, Pochita is still considered to be the strongest, at least as of now, as he is on a collision course with the Darkness Devil. But nonetheless, other than the Darkness Devil, Pochita is stronger than the rest, and the weakest of the Primal Devils, that being the Falling Devil, is able to flip gravity around the world. So being above a guy that can manipulate a universal constant across the entire planet, I think is a good foundation to assume a high-end with the Nuke Devil scaling chain. So anime fans, you likely know this, but what that means to my normal kaiju fans, essentially, Denji can't just blow up a country with a single attack, but he is able to perform on par and damage characters that can. So with his sheer power mentioned, let's move on to his speed. Now for speed, I'm gonna keep it simple and quick, because my god, it is a lot of I know a guy who knows a guy type deal. So here we go. Makima is able to react to the Angel Devil, forcing him down. The Angel Devil being able to block bullets, said bullets according to the Versus Battle Wiki calcs, so take it with a pound of salt, or traveling at Mach 2.9, which given Pochita can land blows on Makima, would of course mean at a minimum he's around these speeds. And for higher end stuff, Chainsaw Man is able to blitz and cut the head off of Quan Chi, who in her human form is able to do all of this right here, which is calced anywhere from Mach 7 to Mach 20. So yeah, in terms of combat and reaction speed, he is in the super to hypersonic ranges of speed. In terms of durability, I could talk about it for hours, so we're just gonna creep it up in feats, but I'll try my best to keep it quick. He is fine at the start of the show with being flung down to the ground through a building, along with tanking a sonic attack blasting him through a building, as we already said. Pochita is able to tank being blasted into space with Makima's bangs, and simply rips his heart out, throws it back to Earth, said heart withstanding re-entry, and regenerates around it. He's able to take attacks from the Typhoon and Nuke Devil, along with the Gun Fiend and much more. And most importantly, and most difficult to work around, is he is essentially immortal. Even if you disintegrate him down to the atoms, he will just come back over and over. So he can withstand nukes to the face, outdoes island level busters via movement alone, and is in the hypersonic ranges of speed. So with all of the feats said, let's finally show the list of kaiju he'll be fighting off against. For this, as Denji would when fighting demons, we want a wide range of kaiju, varying in power, abilities, and status. So with that in mind, here is Denji's very own bracket. Starting with the weaker kaiju and moving our way up, Denji will face Abaddon, the Spine Prowler, Behemoth, the Ion Dragon, the female Muto, Rodan, Amulock, Kong with both of his tools, Shimo, and finally Evolved Godzilla. So with his bracket set, let's begin, shall we? Starting with Abaddon. Abaddon, appearing in her Monarchy classified comic, along with Kong's Cyber Instinct, is a giant spider titan, standing at 323 feet tall and having an army of her own, the Plague Weavers. While the weakest on this list, she is still a formidable foe. So let's cover her feats. Firstly, starting with her durability. She really only has two things when it comes to durability. Firstly, she did endure a punch from Kong, a Kong who is more well rested and in better health than his GVK counterpart. Said GVK Kong being able to punch with a force equivalent to a 4.2 magnitude earthquake, though she did immediately retreat from it. And for more cutting durability, it is likely her skin is harder than steel, given her webs are said to be as strong as steel, so it would only make sense that her, skin would be stronger than her webs. For speed, we can't really figure that out, though we do know she can easily track people and catch up to them, which, be a given, given her size. But hey, look at Shin, you never know. But her best stuff is her strength. Firstly, she was able to compete with Kong for a brief moment, matching him in strength and overpowering him for the briefest moment. Kong, at this point, as we said, is above his GVK counterpart, which was able to compete with a weakened Godzilla. Other than that, in her comic where she is infinitely cooler, she was able to make all the Hollow Earth beasts fear her by just coming out of her cave. Though I doubt it was literally all the other kaiju, just the ones nearby. Said ones including the Wart Dogs, Leaf Wings, and Rock Critters. Really the only impressive one here would be the Wart Dog, being relatively strong as far as it goes. And lastly, we know all spiders ever come from her, including the Mother Longlegs, which would then further include the Queen Mother Longlegs, who is gigantic and was able to level an Iwi village. And lastly, her abilities. She of course has her webs, which are strong enough to keep bonus together, are hard as steel, and she's able to use them to grab people and eat them. One of the few times we see a kaiju actually eating people. She's able to burrow, and she has her Plague Weavers, essentially the strongest of the non-Mother Longleg spiders. While they can be killed from a single swing of a hammer, in a gigantic group, they would be trouble. So with all that in mind, how will this play out? And to keep it quick and simple, Abaddon stands no chance. While it would be a cool sight to see her entire body covered in spiders to attack Denji, or use her show to grab him and throw him through a building, he can just detach his chainsaws and Spider-Man his way back over to her. He is dog walking. No spider she has ever made would stand a chance. He would cut through her silk with ease and would likely slice through her legs as well. Even if she does eat him or rip him apart, she can't do it fast enough to outdo his regen. Not to mention, if she sends her spiders at him, he would have plenty of blood to keep him going for days on end, as seen when he fought the Infinity Devil. For this fight, all Denji needs is his hybrid form, and with really no difficulty, Abaddon gets slammed. Moving on. Next up, we have the Giant Feline. While not a huge jump in power at all, this Titan is much more agile and is much more ferocious in combat. We have the Spine Prowler. The Spine Prowler, appearing exclusively in Godzilla x Kong the Hunted, by our guess, is likely a little longer and taller than the average warthog. In terms of strength, she's able to knock over the Titan Hunter, which likely weighs around 70,000 metric tons. She's able to injure Kong and make him stumble from her tail spikes, but that's about it for strength. In terms of speed, she's almost able to catch Kong off guard and is able to dodge one of Kong's attacks. But other than that, like Abaddon, we really can't say much, though given her anatomy, it's likely she can run hundreds of miles an hour. But durability is where she really shines. An older and more injured Spine Prowler is able to take many hits from the Titan Hunter, said mech being able to match and outdo peak health Kong for a brief moment in their battle. She's able to be slammed to the ground by Kong, and then right after takes a full force punch to the face by him, getting launched in the process but having no damage dealt. Though she does cap at piercing attacks. As we see, sadly, she does get impaled by the Titan Hunter's horn and dies. In terms of abilities, she has none. But she is a more unpredictable fighter, fighting like real-world large cats. So, with that being said, does she have a chance at all? While this fight might be slightly more difficult for Denji, as his Spine Prowler does move around much more, and she would be hard to hit, nonetheless, his saws still just cut through her with ease. And she also has no ability that can harm him whatsoever. So again, with low difficulty, Denji bodies badly. Moving on. Now with the two lesser titans out of the way, it's time to move on to one of the big screen kaijus, Titanus Behemoth. Coming in at 354 feet tall and weighing 90,000 metric tons, Behemoth is an absolute unit of a titan. But what has he done? And what powers does he have to help in this battle? Well, let's start with strength. For strength, he casually breaks buildings like they're nothing, as really every titan would. On Monarch Declassified, he's able to destroy a helicopter and lifts and rips a naval vessel in half. Outside of that, we know he broke out of his containment in King of the Monsters, his containment unit literally being an entire mountain. So he's a pretty strong kaiju, at least as far as the lesser class titans go. For durability, he's able to withstand attacks from Amulock. While he got no dift, Amulock is still insanely strong. He withstands attacks from said helicopters and naval vessels, and when he was breaking out, Monarch attacked Behemoth with blue-white fire, and despite the efforts, not even his fur was singed, leaving untouched. And for speed, the only thing he has is that he was able to dodge one of Amulock's attacks. So, moving on. For abilities, he's able to regrow forests with ease, and he of course has his massive tusks. So, with his stats, how would he hold up? While Behemoth is the first titan that wouldn't get cut through with a single attack, he is still not doing much, if anything at all. Not to mention, being so much larger, he has a lot of blood. So if for whatever reason Denji gets tired, he has thousands of gallons of blood to call his own. He's just too fast for Behemoth to even have a hope of hitting him. And all he can do to defend himself is try and, I don't know, grow trees around him to hope to God that one might hit. But given Denji's feats, that wouldn't do anything at all. Now, given how giant he is, it would be a little harder for Denji to land a killing blow, but I do think with enough time, the normal Chainsaw Man hybrid can do it with like mid difficulty. Moving on. Next up is the Ion Dragon, the first titan to challenge Godzilla in his Dohei Goji form. Now, I'm gonna keep it quick, as I did just make a video on him versus the Warbat, which if you want to see, consider joining the channel for $1 a month. You get member-only polls and teasers, you get to see videos early, along with some killer upcoming member-only videos, like Zilla Jr. versus Ultraman Rising, or Monsterverse Godzilla versus the Ten Tails. Anyways, strength. For starters, the Ion Dragon was able to lift the USS Lawton, and then proceeded to carry it a few hundred miles. A Fletcher-class destroyer like that would weigh around 2,500 tons. When using his own strength and speed in tandem, he's able to push Godzilla, and later staggers him with a tail swipe. Dohei Goji weighing 99,634 tons. For speed, he has no stated flight speed, but given how large he is, and how fast he moves in relation to Godzilla, like the Spine Prowler, it's likely a few hundred miles an hour. For durability, as we see in the Monarch The Lost Adventures comic cover, the USS Lawton did in fact fight back with everything it's got, likely being hit with what is commonly found on such ships. Weapons like the 538 caliber dual-purpose guns, MK-15 torpedoes, and the 40mm Bofors, and of course whatever else they had on deck. He was able to be thrown into a mountain and got back up like nothing happened. And of course his major feat, being able to withstand Godzilla's beam to the face. Keep in mind, this was a peak health Dohei, so the fact that he didn't have a single scratch is insane. For abilities, he has his horns along with his Nakar Vomit, a type of weird sludge commonly found in gastropods. And the major thing for this battle, the Ion can fly, which puts Denji at a large disadvantage. So with these stats, how does he hold up? Now, this fight is by far the most difficult yet, and that's all thanks to the Ion Dragon being able to fly. Though, with that being said, Denji still has plenty of ways to get around that. Firstly, all the Ion can do is shoot his vomit in the air. Sure, it would slow him down, but it by no means would kill Denji, so the Ion would have to get close. And once he does, Denji, like a flea on a dog, won't let go, either jumping onto him or detaching his chains and swinging his way up there. Denji would pretty easily be able to get on the Ion Dragon, and then it's a matter of either ripping up his wings or cutting deep into his eye. On that note, I should mention, unlike many other fictional characters, Denji, especially Pochita, go for the kill shot off the bat. So Denji, being human with our Ooga Booga brains, would notice simply saw through the eye and crawl his way into the brain. So with that being said, this is likely the last time Denji will be in his Chainsaw Man hybrid form. As moving on, he will need some more firepower, but with the high difficulty in his Chainsaw hybrid form, he moves on. Next up is our first true Titan, the female Muto. Now, while both she and her mate did get bodied pretty badly, not to mention it was a weakened Godzilla that they fought, she still has some pretty great feats on her own. So let's cover them. For strength, she's able to push around and fight against Godzilla. Garagoji weighing in at 99,000 tons. She was able to break through Yucca Mountain with ease, and is able to stab into Godzilla with her claws. For speed, given she can gallop on screen when fighting Godzilla, she probably can't do that for long, but when doing that, can probably hit around 200 miles an hour, though her combat speed does kinda suck, as everybody in D14 moved like a snail. But for durability, she no-sells gunshots, and even a rocket to the eye, and of course, withstood a weakened beam from Godzilla for a little bit, with no visible damage to show for it. For abilities, she firstly has insane hearing. When checking on her destroyed den, she was able to hear Ford Brody break some glass and quickly locate him. She's able to detect a boat being turned on from many blocks away, and she has her EMP, which seems to be constantly on. And as seen with the submarine with the male Muto, it is likely the female Muto can make this weird sludge stuff. So with all that in mind, how would this play out? Well, while being much slower, the female Muto is the first to know where Denji is throughout the fight. Now, while there is no canon answer, it seems there are at least some electronics that are running inside of Chainsaw Man. Now, they won't turn off due to the EMP, as Denji is the power supply, but given he does have some electronics in his body, like the boat, the female Muto could likely track him despite not seeing him. Though, with that being said, there isn't much she can do. She's just too slow. Now, I do think this is likely where to save time, Denji would go fully into Pochita mode to allow him to end this fight quicker. So overall, as long as Pochita takes over, I see Chainsaw Man win with low difficulty. But if he tries to run it with the hybrid form, it would be extreme diff. But moving forward, we will assume all the fights are Pochita. Really, the only issue Denji may face in this battle is stamina, as the female Muto would be much harder to draw blood from, that being thanks to her tougher skin. But luckily, since they are both from Japan, they know how to restock their appetite with killer snacks they can find there. Sadly, you bums watching everywhere else, any fellow Virginians, can't experience the amazing taste of Japanese snacks, is what I would say if we were still living in the Stone Age. Luckily, thanks to today's sponsors Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co., you can enjoy the delicacies of Japan right in your living room. So, as Chainsaw Man needs blood to keep going, let's indulge in some snacks. Firstly, Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co. pride themselves on getting your treats to you faster than Quan Chi herself. But now that they are here, let's start with Tokyo Treats, shall we? Tokyo Treats is the gun devil of these two boxes, packing a huge punch of flavor, with a huge variety of snacks that you would find walking the streets of Tokyo. Now, while I could go full ASMR, we do have a train to catch, so let's grab a select few. For Tokyo Treats, I picked the Santa Strawberry Candy Roll, which was infinitely better than Fruit by the Foot. It is sweeter, it has a better texture. We also got the Silent Night Salted Butter Truffles, 4 layers of rich ganache, with a salty, crunchy biscuit in the middle. Ooh, or the Christmas Donut Stick, a soft, sweet treat made with Okinawan brown sugar. All absolutely delicious and great treats for when you're on the go. But what if you want something more calm and relaxed? Then check out Sakura Co. If Tokyo Treats is the gun devil, then Sakura Co. is Rize in her human form. Calm and sweet homemade treats await you within. Now, besides the amazing treats, such as the milk chocolate strawberries, covered in rich, creamy chocolate, the matcha castella, a flavorful soft cake that has history going all the way back to the 16th century, or even the Ayanori Senbai, a salty seaweed and umami snack. Besides those mouth-watering treats, Sakura Co. is most known for its dishware within. Each Sakura Co. box comes with a different piece of Japanese history within. This month having the Minowari Indigo Plate, a stunning piece of history, perfect to put the included and mouth-watering matcha-infused sencha tea on it. An amazingly flavored tea. The taste of deep-steamed Shinzuoka sencha and Kyoto Uchi matcha. This tea is by far the best one I've had sent to me by Sakura Co. over our long partnership. Not to mention, not only do you get amazing treats within, but the pamphlets within teach you so much of the history of snacks and teas within, along with their origin and the people that make them. So if you're like Denji and want a delicious meal of treats, then check out the first link down below and use code GOJIGUY to receive $5 off your first Sakura Co. and or Tokyo Treat box. So thank you Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out the boxes down below. With Christmas right around the corner, they work great for a gift for friends or family, or if you just want to snack on them yourself. No hate, I feel that. But really, again, thank you Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co. and moving on. But now, it's really time to move up in power. The bum of the Titan class, but nonetheless still powerful in his own right, Titanus Rodan, with a wingspan of 871 feet and weighing at 39,043 tons. Rodan, while again a bum, is still very powerful. He's just no upper class Titan by any means. But with my hate aside, they butchered Rodan's character. Literally any other version is better. What has Rodan been able to do? Of course, say it with me, starting with strength. Firstly, Rodan's able to create a giant shockwave just from flapping his wings. He's able to crush jets in his claws. He's able to somewhat wrestle with Ghidorah, though we do know Ghidorah was holding back the entire time, so again, bum status. He was able to ram and throw Mothra, and with a few pecks, was able to break out of his containment. For speed, he's able to keep up and outspeed F-35 Lightning IIs, said jets being able to go Mach 1.6, and Rodan himself is described as supersonic, and he has feats to back it up, as by just flying, he leveled a city below. But that's really all he has for speed. But for durability, he has some okay-ish stuff. Firstly and foremost, he no-sells missiles to the chest, as really any Titan would. He gets slammed to the ground by Mothra and it's fine, and okay. the Ghidorah feat. Rodan was able to survive a point-blank beam from Ghidorah, though some things should be said. Firstly, it was one head, not three. Secondly, Ghidorah was arguably weakened. Not in the sense that he was actually weak, but he just wasn't in peak power, having just woken up. But if that doesn't seem fair, then we can at least add that he was holding back the entire time and was not trying to kill Rodan at all. So Rodan survived, but was put down by a single-headed, holding back an arguably weakened Ghidorah. Another pretty big anti-feat is that he was fully out of the fight from a single stab to the shoulder. Camazotz bodies him, dude. Anyways, while he's annoying, he does still have a little bit more to cover. In cave paintings, he's shown to have fire breath, though he's never shown it in film, so we're not going to use it. And in the King of the Monsters novelization, he's able to cause volcanoes to erupt, which, I mean, it's not really useful here at all. And that's really about it. So, with this stuff in mind, how does he hold up? Firstly, as we said, Pochita will be the one taking on each battle going forward, as a Chainsaw Man hybrid at this point isn't enough. So with this huge jump in power, who would win in this battle? Now, firstly, this battle would be tough for Pochita, due to not only Rodan's speed, which Pochita is faster than, yes, but the fact that, again, it's a flying kaiju we're dealing with. So, can he win? Yeah, he can. Pochita at this point has dealt with much worse than Rodan. Well, yes, it will be a pain to kill him due to him being on fire, and that might affect his chains, but once he's on Rodan, again, he's not letting go. While it may take a minute for him to find a fatal area, once he does, say cutting off his wings or going through his mouth, he can just cause Rodan to leak magma out of the sky until he essentially bleeds out. And while his chains might get superheated or warp some, Pochita takes this battle. There is nothing Rodan can do. Pochita is faster than Rodan, has dealt with harder hits, and regen's too quick for Rodan to do anything. So overall, while it would take a few minutes, and Pochita might sustain a burn or two, I do see him moving on with low difficulty. Next up is one of the most underrated kaiju in the verse in terms of power, as Denji has entered the top 10 of the verse. At 10th place, we have Titanus Amulock. Now, firstly, anime fans, one sec, yes, stay right there.
Alan, we're in the top 10.
But really, Amulock is horrifically downplayed, mostly because he bowed to Godzilla after a single attack, which, yeah, it's Godzilla. Rodan bowed from just a look, and so did Behemoth, Methuselah, for my boy, Scylla, and the Queen Muto. Does that mean they suck? No. At least Godzilla saw him as enough of a threat to attack in the first place. But onto his actual feats. Firstly, yes, it's strength. It's always strength. Amulock, as we see, is able to pretty easily break off Behemoth's tusk. Not only that, but he's also able to push around Behemoth with his attacks, who, as I said earlier, weighs 90,000 metric tons. After defeating him with no issue, he's seen dragging him into the water, again dragging 90,000 tons. Sadly, we don't know anything for speed, but for durability, he's able to endure attacks from Godzilla, along with a few from Behemoth. Now, while not seeming crazy at first, it's post-material that matters. Firstly, Drew Edward Johnson has said in a few tweets that Kong versus Amulock would be a relatively close fight, with either of them having the chance to take each other out. Now, it's mostly based on their abilities, but also based on their strength. Now, I have made my point clear many times that I would rather pick up dog crap with my bare hand than take statements with no proof to back it up. So, while I went to agenda wank, I wouldn't say this 100% factual. The idea of him being matched to Kong, that is. Though, given his feats against Behemoth, it's not out of the question either. So, let me know in the comments, is it fair use? Anyways, to add on, another statement from Mr. Johnson that is fully backed up by Behemoth's Monarch Declassified comic, it's that Amulock can only be injured if you hit his head, as we see him there as just a head. The rest of his body is all thanks to his insane telekinetic abilities, meaning a few things. Firstly, Denji can only kill him if he destroys the head. Secondly, as you see, Amulock can stretch his body as far as he needs to, though that does bear a mental load. And lastly, Amulock can also regenerate pretty well, as any debris that gets knocked off, he can just reattach. To add on, he has one of the strongest abilities in the verse, the Psychic Blast. Now, this takes a lot of force to do, but essentially, what it does is sends a psychic punch to your brain, which works well on Titans, being able to knock out Behemoth, and works even better on smaller creatures. So if Denji gets hit by this could be the killing blow. So, with his stats in mind, does he hold a chance? Now, this fight is the first that is very close. Pochita will find out quickly that while he can cut through Amulock, he doesn't care and just keeps growing back. So I do think Pochita would quickly figure out to go for the head, but Amulock, given his wild abilities, could keep growing things on his body to grab or slow down Denji, allowing him to throw Denji around. But even with all that, Denji is still just too fast. While the Titans that come next will likely be able to keep an eye on him, Amulock just misses the bar. And I do think eventually, Pochita will cut up his head enough to take him out. So with mid-difficulty, Pochita moves on. Also, if you have made it this far, comment Pochi in the comments, so I know who's a real one. Anyways, with that being said, it's time for the big ones. Next up is a huge jump in power, jumping into the top 5 of the verse. At 4th place, we have Kong with his weapons, only behind the likes of Ghidorah and the next 2 kaiju. So, with this script getting longer and longer, let's see if the 8th wonder of the world has what it takes. For strength, Kong, when poisoned and having sleeping drugs in his system, was able to fight off against Godzilla and push him around. He was able to throw in the Warbat, Drowned Viper, Titan Hunter, and Camazotz. He was also able to fend off against Shimo, has punches that hit with the force of a 4.2 magnitude earthquake, and is considered Godzilla's equal in power. For speed, he's a giant ape, which is great enough. He's able to jump across entire mountain ranges, he's able to able to keep an eye on Camazotz, who is faster than his Hellswarm, who were able to keep up and outpace the same jets Rodan outpaced. Camazotz is faster than Rodan. And he was able to run away from Scar King's troops, even when his entire arm was frostbitten. For durability, he's able to endure Godzilla's Weakened Beam in GVK. He's able to withstand Tima's Frostbite Blast, which is its own version of the Atomic Breath, and only got, well, Frostbite. So to endure that beam is an insane feat. He's able to fall tens of thousands of meters into the hollow earth and gets up like it was nothing. He endures Camazott's Sonic Roar, takes stabs from Abaddon's legs, is able to fight Tiamat in the water, and is able to take on the Kraken underwater while being electrocuted. Now to his tools. Kong's axe, when charged, is one of the strongest items in the verse. Now I do see a lot of people downplay Mechagodzilla for getting cut up by an axe that was charged by a weakened beam, but you need to keep in mind, that weakened beam's force is being delivered at a tiny point. Like how when surgical scalpels cut, they can cut you with tens to hundreds of thousands of PSI. Kong's axe is condensing a beam down to a tiny, finite point. So of course it's sliced right through Mechagodzilla. And for his Beast Glove, he's able to generate his own electrical shock. And the Beast Glove itself was made with the idea of being able to take down titans like Mechagodzilla. The glove also allows him to hit much harder, as instead of hitting with his hand, he's now hitting with metal. So how did this fight play out? Now Kong is the first that can probably keep an eye on Pochita, along with actually being able to hit him in battle. So this will be an all-new type of battle for Denji. Rather than just trying to kill, Pochita needs to watch out for attacks as well. Now this fight is really hard to say for certain. If Kong lands a punch with his glove, or lands his axe right on Pochita, that's a kill shot then and there. But I do think Pochita would be able to avoid these massive attacks, using his speed and attaching his chains to swing up. And given it's an ape, Pochita knows exactly where to attack. So it's close. Kong for sure has ways of winning, but more times than not, I think Pochita would just be a little bit too fast and cut his way into his mouth, nose, eyes, or ears. So with high difficulty, Pochita moves on. Now, before we get to the top 2, I want to say again, if you're enjoying and want to see more anime v kaiju content like this in the future, then please subscribe. I'm trying to build an anime audience so I can later down the road post more anime v anime videos. So if you're enjoying this, then please consider subscribing. It would mean a lot. And trust me, I have plenty more anime videos planned here soon. And we're also trying to hit 300k before the end of the year. So please subscribe. And don't worry, if I ever start to bore you, you can always just unsubscribe. But with my eBay getting out of the way, let's move on to number 2. Next up is arguably the strongest Titan in the verse in terms of power. In terms of actual strength, she is the strongest. In terms of speed, she's one of the fastest. And in terms of durability, she is the most durable. Classified as the hypothetical by Monarch, as even after they had dealt with Ghidorah and Godzilla, they didn't think someone as powerful as she could exist. We are of course talking about the Ice Queen, Shimo. So, I'll keep it quick. She is the physically largest Titan in the verse, besides the likes of Methuselah. Watch this video right here for more. And with that size comes power. She was able to tussle and outdo a Godzilla with 20 times more storage for radiation than his Dohei Goji form. And as we know in the Monsterverse, the more radiation you have, the stronger and more durable you become. So outdoing a Goji who is 20 times stronger than Dohei, who can throw around the 141,056 ton Ghidorah, is an insane feat. But if you don't go with that line of thinking, she required 4 Kongs just to keep her from walking. She's able to throw Godzilla with one hand, and is able to carry Scar King for hours like it's nothing. She was able to cause the last ice age and froze the entirety of Greenland in a few hours to as short as a few minutes. She is as fast, if not faster, than a sprinting evolved Godzilla, who is much faster than his Dohei Goji form, who can run at 300 miles an hour. And she is durable enough to withstand the strongest attack in the verse, the supercharged evolved beam. Godzilla gathering all 20 times more radiation capacity and blasting it out into a single beam, far stronger than attacks of the Hollow Earth drill. Energy matching to the Hollow Earth, which itself has hundreds of portals, each of which are matched to the sun in power, and even stronger than his thermonuclear pulses that were able to vaporize Ghidorah. And what happened to Shimo? Not a single scratch. For other abilities, other than her beam, she's able to freeze everything around her. As seen in Rio, before she even got there, she froze the beach in seconds. So, with all that in mind, how would this fight play out? This is a huge jump from Kong. Shimo takes all the categories minus speed. Being so large, she doesn't have a great way of hitting Pochita, though she does have her passive freezing, which given how powerful she can make it at times, if she just passively turns it up, she could freeze his saw solid, making it much harder for Pochita to cut. And on that note, even if she didn't freeze him, her skin is just too tough to cut. And if Pochita were to try and cut into her and get inside of her body, she could just charge her beam, freezing him solid inside of her. While this fight is super close, I do think Shimo has a better win condition. It's not even that she'll tear him apart, it's just she'll freeze him solid and either blast him with a beam that would completely eviscerate him, given it's an atomic breath, or crush him to tiny pieces with her foot. So overall, while Pochita is a much better fighter, I personally don't see a way of him killing her. So I do think Pochita, at least at this point in the manga, ends here. But as I said at the start, he can just come back after a while. So what about that? Well, if Pochita were to keep coming back over and over, eventually he would play his cards just right, where he could move on, and more or less do the same thing with Godzilla after. So like Death Battle, if you keep giving him life after life, eventually he could win. But taking that away, Pochita makes his way into the top tiers of the Monsterverse, being one hell of a devil in his own right. But what do you all think? Do you think he should have made it further? Or do you think he should have stopped way sooner? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. And again, if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. This video took forever, and my hands hurt from typing, and my throat hurts from talking. So I leave you here. Stay flashy, everyone, and as always, keep collecting. Goji Guy out. See ya.